crowd.
Yeah.
Yay.
Don't get scared.
So I am never up here. So I just have to say, this church has just been such a miracle this year. The quality of our music, I mean, it's just really so exciting. Max Kaufman said that he never knew what happiness was until he got married. And by then, it was too late. I'm going to tell you the secret to happiness. I mean, you can write it down, the secret to happiness, and why it has nothing to do with marriage or success or comfort or even pleasure. But first I want to tell you about this card. Years ago, I saw a photograph of President Eisenhower taken from the back as he was standing being introduced, about to give a 45-minute speech. And he had a single card this size in his hand with 5 words on it. Those of you in the front row can see I must have 1,000 words squeezed into this. I just have some cool things to say, and there is an order, a progression to them. And I need your help to remind me to keep looking at this card and find where in the world I am, or go back and say what I forgot to say. Each of us have an animal brain and a godly essence. So your animal brain is the seat of all your desires and emotions. And it is designed to exaggerate your fear and your cravings. Your godly essence is the seat of your consciousness and your intelligence. But for many people, it never goes far beyond being the servant of your fears and your cravings. All too often, it just finds smart ways to do dumb things. But whenever you're calm and you have a little energy, there is the possibility of, I'm just remembering, I'm supposed to look at this card once in a while. Yeah, you're not getting your job done here. When you're calm and you have a little energy, there's a possibility of allowing your godly essence to blossom into your higher self. And for as long as your higher self stays awake, you have a completely different perspective on life, in which you are unconditionally happy. So your animal brain always will always have a victim perspective. It is designed by evolutionary processes to help animals stay alive in a brutal world. And it does that by just exaggerating how events can impact you. And such as how there could be a bad result that ruins your life, or some good result that you think is going to bring you instant happiness, or especially past results that you think have permanently destroyed any hope for having a decent life. And you say, look at your card. So your animal brain has, so your higher self has a welcoming perspective, and your animal brain has a victim perspective. Can we put that up? So your victim perspective has you caught up in how things can ruin your life. And so what it does is it causes you to see what is right here, right now, enormously colored by what is not, by bad things that could happen or good things that could happen. And so we always experience what is right here and right now through the lens of what is not, what might be or used to be. So our natural purpose in life is to pursue good things. We're here to pursue success and pleasure and comfort. But happiness is more about loving that pursuit than getting too stuck on the mix of good and bad things. So if you got all the good things that you ever wanted, if you just got this constant flow of successes and pleasures and comfort, once you got used to that, you'd be no happier than you were before. Right? That sounds crazy, right? But if you don't believe that, look at all the unhappy superstars of entertainment or sports or business who have gotten to where they get everything that they want, and yet they're less happy than they were on the way up. So your higher self treats life kind of like a game. It's playing it just for fun. So as your higher self, you enthusiastically pursue just the kind of life that you want, but you do it without the attachment. You do it without feeling like you need a particular good result. And as a result of that, you have this flexibility and this confidence that allows you to turn and welcome whatever comes next as just the right thing for the next part of the game. And that is the welcoming perspective. So what do I mean saying, as you've heard many times, that we live in a world of illusion where everything is colored by your judgments and your hopes and your fears and your regrets? So it does not that those things distort your physical appearances. The physical world looks just as it does. What is distorted is what it all means. And I want to illustrate that by inviting you inside my mind with me for a minute.
Boy, boy.
Right. Brace yourself. It's not a pretty sight. Oh, wait, I'm not going to let you in my mind at all. So I am an introvert, and I have a deep-seated conviction that I'm so different that when people get to know the real me, they find me boring. And so it's a big priority of mine to hide certain parts of me. My wife, Beverly, raise your hand. Beverly is a well-known sculptor, and so we're always going to art gallery openings. And for parts of it, I stand there by her side, but I also wander around through the gallery. And as I wander, sometimes I end up in conversation with a stranger. So what I want to do in those conversations is to invite a connection. There is no room for that. My emotion center is terrified that he's going to discover that I'm boring. My thought center only hears snatches of what he's saying because I'm desperately searching for something interesting to say in response when it's my turn. And my judgment center has already dismissed this guy as a jerk because his nose looks like a nose of a high school teacher that I hate. There is not a chance that I am ever going to be able to be right here, right now, with what is in this conversation. I looked. So your dreams just add to the illusion. You have dreams of a happy life. And the trouble with your dreams is that they convince you that the only way you can be happy is if things go more or less according to your plan. And so I want to give you an example of that from my early life. In high school, I fell in love with Bonnie Bauer. Beverly knows all about Bonnie found. So we went to colleges in different states, but we had a plan to get married when we graduated from college. That plan lasted 2 months. When Bonnie wrote me a Dear John letter. So that Dear John letter had no impact at all on my what is, right? I wasn't going to see Bonnie for months, but it crushed my what is not. It destroyed my plans for the future and any hope I had of being happy in my life. I dropped out of the fraternity that I was pledging, and I locked myself away in a cage of depression. So, when you are your higher self, you have the same plans, the same interests as ever, but they no longer feel like needs to you because you are not attached to them. And that gives you the freedom to play. So imagine that I'm invited to be in a 2-person race up the opposite sides of a cliff. Whoever gets to the top first wins a prize of $1,000. Cool, right? Even without the prize, this is the kind of thing I live for. Just the best fun. And so here I am scrambling enthusiastically up my side of the cliff when all of a sudden there's a big boulder that just blocks my path. So from my victim perspective, that boulder is an obstacle. It is destroying my desperate hope to win the race, and it's crushing my newfound need for that $1,000. But for my higher self, none of that what is not contaminates my what is. I'm doing one of the fun things I have ever done, and that boulder is just the next cool challenge. So it is absolutely fun to have good results, like victory in a race or pleasure. Those are great things. But when you turn them into pictures, they get stuck in your mind, and you have to have good results. You turn your life, your happiness, over to things that are not completely within your control. So if you have a victim perspective, what happens is when you've had enough failures, you have shell shock. And you just begin to wish that your whole life were easy. You still want the good results, but you don't want the struggle and the suffering. So we're not going to talk about struggle and suffering today, but I'll just say that they are vital parts of what makes any game worth playing. You all know Pat McCulley. She did the Daily Word today. Pat wrote a wonderful book, and in it I discovered a powerful and true myth. Before you and I were born into this world, we were just higher selves. We were just expressions of pure godliness. When we wanted to experience life in the physical world for all the lessons and the enjoyment, we were free to design any body and any life that we wanted. So do you see what that means? Right here, right now, you are living the precise life that your higher self wants. That's pretty cool, right? So, how many of you have seen the movie Avatar? Wow. So, who knows what an avatar is? Yeah. What's an avatar? Who can say what an avatar is? Yeah, it's your piece in the game. If you play Monopoly, you get to choose your own avatar. You can be the Scotty dog or the shoe. or the flat iron. Thank you, that was helpful. So there is a video game called Super Mario Brothers. How many of you have heard of that? With it audience, or with it from back in my day anyway. So in Super Mario Brothers, you are assigned your avatar, whose name is Mario. Right. So Mario is this very Italian-looking cartoon character in an imaginary world full of obstacles and levels. Do we? Oh, he's there. The first time I played Super Mario Brothers, it was pure joy. I was so immersed in every aspect of that game, and I welcomed every single obstacle. I loved it, not caring that I failed a lot more than I succeeded. And that's how our higher selves are right now with all the problems that we face in our lives. It's just like that. The more I played Super Mario Brothers, the less it was just for fun. I got so hooked on needing to win that I forgot to enjoy the game. I kind of forgot that I'm a higher self playing a game, and I became my avatar. I kind of became Mario. So when an obstacle was too tough, I would get frustrated. If I did poorly in the game, my life just sucked. And I carried that bad mood out into my life. So it is so easy for us to forget that it's all just for the lessons and the enjoyment, no matter how it's going. So your animal brain, all those fears and cravings, that is the precise avatar that you design. You don't need to get rid of all your perfections. That's all part of the game. And one of the best parts of the game is you begin to remember who you really are as a higher self. And that's what we are all doing. So that's Pat's myth. It tells the truth about life. So a myth is a story that reveals deeper truths. And the myth is true whether or not things actually happened that way. Do you see that? Good. So I want to give one final example. I'm going to pretend that yesterday was my birthday. Is it already up there? No. Oh, we did it. Good. Thank you. Yesterday was my birthday. So there's my birthday cake. Yesterday was my birthday, and I had this picture in my head of this wonderful birthday where we go out to a great restaurant, Beverly and I, for dinner. So just before we're getting ready to leave for dinner, the phone rings. Well, it's a friend of Beverly's. She gets on the phone, and before long they are in this huge fight that ends with Beverly slamming down that phone, backing out of any birthday dinner, and locking herself in her room. Now you know Beverly. Would she do that? No, never. Not a possibility, but it's my story, and we're pretending it's my birthday. She's locked away in that room. And what happens to me? With my victim perspective, my birthday is ruined. I suffer, and I fall into a bad mood. So you remember that. So I fall into a bad mood because a terrible thing has happened to me. So who can tell where that terrible thing happened? It happened in my head. It's all in my pictures, right? It's in my world of illusion. So you remember that thought bubble above my head with my picture of my wonderful birthday, right? Did you see what Beverly did with it? She grabbed it, she threw it on the ground, and she stomped all over it. And I winced in pain, just like it was real. So, starting right this minute, starting now, you have the chance to begin to realize that the only real you is your higher self. whenever you're discouraged or unhappy, or you're desperate for a successful result or desperate for comfort, that's your avatar. And so your higher self can just enjoy that. I promised the secret to happiness. Here is the secret to happiness. All you need to do to be happy in your life is to become aware from moment to moment, whether your higher self is awake or asleep. It's not to control it. It's not to force yourself to be awake more and more. It's just to be aware. So it's easy to tell whether your higher self is awake or asleep, but it takes practice and perseverance to develop the habit of noticing from moment to moment. It's easy to tell because if your higher self is awake, you have a welcoming perspective. You're enthusiastic about dealing with whatever is up right now. And it's asleep if there is judgment or hope or fear or regret that's distorting that picture. So just personal note, my higher self is awake and asleep off and on all day long. Every single time something triggers a victim feeling, I'm asleep. The good news is, it's just getting easier for me to awaken, and those periods just get shorter and shorter. So you and I are on a spiritual path together toward remembering who we really are, which is our higher selves. And if you want to learn how to deepen your awareness of your own welcoming perspective, I've written 5 books, 3 of which are explicitly about that. And at Luinda's suggestion, is Luinda here? Yeah, hey, at Luinda's suggestion, I put them out in the hall to purchase. And Pat McCulley's book is out there. So, and if enough of you express interest in it, I would teach a class about the welcoming perspective in evenings here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Good. Well, no, commanded applause doesn't really. So in the meantime, my higher self says to your higher selves, what? Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.